I would urge every single one of you, if you're watching this video, if you've never played Hunt, go out there, get the game, enjoy it for yourself, for yourself, for yourself, for yourself.
I had fallen out of love. Over the past year, I kept finding myself sitting at my desk wondering, where did it all go wrong? Once again, I met my reflection staring blankly at a loading screen after opening up a random game. Deep down, I knew it wouldn't keep my attention for more than a couple of minutes. There was really no easy way to explain this feeling, but I couldn't have been the only one out there. The voices told me to move on, pack up my bags and embrace the fact that it was over. But I couldn't let go. I still ended up buying into the new releases thinking those were gonna fix me. You see, I didn't buy games, I bought dreams, hoping that with the price tag, my love would also come back. I guess you could say the last couple of months have not been easy when it comes to picking up a game and actually sitting down and being able to play for a while. And don't get me wrong, I do think there's a lot of amazing games that have come out recently. Perhaps this is more a situation that we need to analyze the player instead of necessarily analyzing the game and why Hunt fits with the type of player that I am right now. The more I worked on this video, the more I realized the issue is a little bit deeper than I thought it was. If we look at the last couple of years, maybe I finished 2 or 3 games. And even if we look at the ones that I did finish, I did it so I could basically prove myself that I could still get to the credit scenes. Let's say somebody asks me what my favorite game is. My answer is always the same: Red Dead Redemption 2. And I haven't finished that game. Now, this doesn't mean that I couldn't tell you why it's my favorite game. Across PS4, PS5, PC, I have put hundreds of hours into it. But in the back of my mind, I'm gonna find some excuse as to why I didn't finish it. I might look at it in the sense that I did get spoiled about the ending of the game, so why bother picking it up? But at the end of the day, the thing is that I got this obsessive compulsive way of playing games where I feel like I need to see everything and discover everything and explore the whole map. So inevitably I take something that should be bringing me joy and helping me relax after the day's over, and I just end up being overwhelmed because I fundamentally turn the game into a checklist of things I have to do. All this to say that maybe Hunt Showdown is not the perfect game, but it fits perfectly into what I need a game to be. I had previously seen some content about the game, I just ended up never picking it up, but looking back into the last 200 hours, I can confidently say I'm so happy that I did. Regardless of anything that we're about to go through with this video and any criticism or any questions that might arise from my side, if you haven't played Hunt Showdown, do yourself a favor. If you have the money to spare and you want to have a unique experience, if you like first-person shooters, unique design, really unique worlds, I definitely would recommend Hunt Showdown regardless of everything that we're going to go through. So first of all, let's talk about the game loop in Hunt Showdown. You can join in solo, in a duo, or trios. You and your team jump into a match with a total of 12 players. Once you're in, you're gonna go from point A to point B, collecting clues to where the boss is located. This will push players to the same areas of the map, so inevitably, you're gonna come across other hunters. Remember, at this point, everybody's out for the bounty, so if you get a chance to take out the competition, and perhaps even get a new shiny gun to go along with it, why wouldn't you? So let's say you went through the map and collected enough clues to find your target. You reach the compound that you need to, you open up the doors, and there he is. There's a couple of different bounties within the Bayou, and all of them have their different ways to be dealt with, but they shouldn't be too difficult if you know what you're doing. If you do manage to kill it, that doesn't mean you're done. Time has come to perform a banishing ritual. The thing is, the ritual takes 2 minutes, and it lets everyone that's still alive know what you're doing. So yeah, at this point, I'm guessing you know what happens. Everybody's now making their way over to your compound, and they want what's yours. Place traps, surround key point areas of the compound, and do everything you can to get out alive and extract. If you do, congratulations, your hunt was successful. The game loop is incredibly simple, and it does seem that it might get repetitive, but the reality of the situation is I've never found a game that has the same feeling to it. That is mainly because of the many dynamics that are put together within Hunt. A quick example of this, you have what are called sound traps. At a core level, these sound traps are designed to keep you on your toes and kind of contribute to the atmosphere of the game. At any point in time, you can find yourself triggering a simple sound trap. The issue here is that the best case scenario, you can find yourself just triggering a simple annoying mob to your location, or you can create a chain link where you're triggering multiple sound traps that can travel much farther away. On top of these stationary sound traps, you also have more dynamic ones. So a good example of this would be the dog kennels, where depending on how close you get to them and how much noise you're producing, they're gonna activate. In woods, you have branches that can break if you walk over them. On main roads, you're gonna come across cows or horses that are also gonna make noise if you get close to them. Finally, the most important of all, the goddamn crows. And let me tell you, I hate these goddamn crows, but I love them so much at the same time. Because you're going to be walking through the map and hear these bird noises. You're going to look up, see a bunch of flocks flying, and that's the general direction where other hunters are. So at this point, you better be ready for a fight. New players that are coming into Hunt and not really realizing how the enemy knew that they were there, the most likely explanation is that they were simply listening. Granted, sound is a super important part of any extraction shooter, but Hunt Showdown takes audio quality to the absolute next level, listening to footsteps, listening to these sound traps, but also the guns. And I want to show you a few examples just so you can see how clean they sound. I mean, at the end of the day, even if you don't like the sound of the guns, you gotta give it to them for the melon popping sound you get when you land one of these headshots. Basically, there's really not any meta, at least like from my general understanding of the game. Weapons are categorized based on the space they'll take in your loadout. You can have one large slot, one small one, as well as tools and consumables. You'll see plenty of players gravitate to different tools and weapons, and it just makes sense for them. If you're looking for what's the meta, what is everybody using, there really isn't one. The game design is also absolutely brilliant. I could spend a little bit of time talking about the design itself of the enemies of Hunt, or I could spend a lot of time talking about the lore, which I definitely want to make a video on. But at the end of the day, it's just another layer to the cake that creates an amazing atmosphere to the game. And it's not like they're just set dressing. They contribute to the gameplay as well. And again, this is because there's so much unique lore and so much unique design philosophy behind all of the elements that go into the game. So let's talk about the main character here, you and your hunter. There's not even a lot to say. I mean, just take a second and look at these. The footage pretty much speaks for itself here. This game conveys such a unique personality, and choosing a hunter doesn't feel like you're just picking a skin. You're immersing yourself into this world. You're going on this supernatural hunt. As a footnote, I'm really not the type of player that spends money on skins. Strangely enough, because I haven't been playing anything else, I've been okay with spending a little bit of money if something happens to catch my eye. But yeah, I think you get the point. I really like the style of the game. When it comes to your hunter, you also have a load of different perks, and these kind of tend to change with each event that the game brings in. And this is where you're beginning to see similar trends, depending on how experienced the hunter is and what they're hoping to get out of each hunt. If you're going with a new hunter, it's only natural that you're going to want to prioritize specific traits. A quick example of this is the necromancer trait. If you're going in solo, you're going to have the ability to self-revive after 5 seconds of being dead. Or if you're going in with duos or trios, you're going to be able to res your teammates from a distance. Throughout events, there's also specific combinations that you can do. For example, if you pick up a specific event trait during a match, you're going to be able to combine that with a base trait that you can pick up in the menu. The game continues to stay fresh, it feels unique to play, and it feels like you can try out different things and you're kind of incentivized to also try those different things, which keeps the community engaged in how the game develops from that point on. I do have a lot of experience with PC gaming, especially first-person shooters, but this game actually got me over here opening up aim labs as if I'm practicing for the major leagues. And this is the beauty of this game, it actually makes you want to be better. Absolutely no game in the market right now has ever made me feel like that at any point in time. That is basically why this game has been climbing the charts in terms of hours played on my Steam list, and why I'm probably going to continue to play it consistently. Now, looking at the bad, we're going to be talking a little bit about the bugs and some other issues that the game has at a core level that don't really seem to be getting fixed, or at least that there's not a roadmap that I've seen where this is how they're kind of tackling some of these issues. So me from the future here making a note, ever since I started making this video, Crytek has kind of addressed the fact that a lot of people were feeling like communication wasn't the best, and they've released 2 posts, one on their official website, another one on Reddit, and they also released a roadmap video on their YouTube channel. A major pain with the community and with myself as well is going to be trades. There's a lot of different videos, and I've pulled up a lot of different research on how trades happen and why trades happen so much in Hunt Showdown in comparison to other games that I've played. But just to give you a general rundown on why trades are currently a big issue with the game. So on multiplayer games, think about the gameplay updating based off of a connection between the server and the player. So there's basically a connection measured by ping, displayed as ms, milliseconds. Whenever there's an action performed by the player, it's usually happening on the local server, so on your computer. So what's going to happen there is you're going to commit to an action, the server validates it, says, okay, I can verify that information, and then it registers it back to the player and lets you continue to play. Now let's say 2 players are right in front of each other. One of them has a 50 millisecond connection, another one has a 250 millisecond connection, and they're gonna stab each other with a melee weapon. Technically, the player that has a 50 millisecond connection is gonna have an advantage because they have overall a better internet quality. So they're gonna be able to perform an action and communicate that action to the server at a faster rate. What usually happens in any other game with that scenario is the player with the 50 millisecond connection commits to the melee attack, they communicate that information back to the server faster, and they are the ones that end up getting the kill. However, let's look at it from the perspective of the other player. On the other screen, because the actions that you're taking are happening locally, you're also stabbing the opponent, but it's not registering as a hit, and what just happens is you inevitably die. So you see yourself die, even though on your screen you saw yourself stab the opponent. So what happened there is that the server already made a judgment based off of the action that the player 1 committed to, saying that, hey, I got this information first, so it means that the player 1 stabbed first and you're dead, even though locally you're seeing the animation from the stabbing attack, right? So how Crytek kind of addressed a lot of people complaining about this, people that were seeing blood splatters when they were shooting enemies, or they were seeing that they were in fact hitting the opponents on their screen, but then they were dying. So now the way it works is that they've opened up the connection to the server. So in this scenario, player 1 stabs player 2, the server receives that information first, it says that player 1 killed player 2, but it also grants a window of up to 0.8 seconds, 800 milliseconds, where player 2 can report that they also stabbed player 1, and now both of them die. This seems like everybody loses. Throughout all the games that I've played, connection and latency or internet quality played a huge part in your experience, but nobody ever said, hey, the game should kind of grant openings and kind of favor bad internet connections. Even bigger implications when you're talking about bullet velocity, bullet drop, kind of getting that information back and from the server. You can have that delay being up to almost 1 second where you've visually killed that player and then you also die, which is really silly. So another post video, while editing notes to this topic, Crytek did release a hit validation and trade window improvement post, where they are rolling back the huge window they previously had back to 75 milliseconds, which is going to be a huge win for everyone. This change is bound to be rolled out on the 2.2 update, so if you're watching this video and it's already live, well, you're already benefiting from it. So back in August, Hunt Showdown 1896 was released. It's important to note that I joined Hunt Showdown exactly at this moment. I purchased the game perhaps 2 days before the release of Hunt Showdown 1896. This meant that a new engine was about to be brought into a Hunt Showdown experience, along with DLSS, new lighting improvements, a bunch of quality of life changes, and the majority of the community was super excited for it. They removed a bunch of the old maps, I mean all of the old maps really, and they introduced Mammon's Gulch, which is absolutely phenomenal. The strategy behind the release was actually quite interesting because they removed all of the other maps. They were expecting this flood of new players coming in. They were getting a new map along with everybody else, so they would be having gradually month over month new maps being released and kind of being introduced to the game with a fresh perspective. A game, by the way, that isn't really necessarily easy to get into, so the strategy behind it to me was quite clever. With the new map, they also introduced a new roaming boss, the Hellborn. The feedback from the community was they absolutely loved it, and it stands as one of the best maps ever released on Hunt Showdown. I can't really say much about it because I only have that map in Stillwater. And again, looking at the changes that they made on that map, even though I don't have the contrasted experience to talk about, it feels great to play on. Because of the roadmap to implementation, I got to learn the ropes of Hunt Showdown in the first map, and the transition to a new map was way smoother because of it. They've also introduced bullet drop, which wasn't in the game before. Makes a ton of sense, especially with the new map that has a lot of different vertical elements to it. So that was a good change. It was positively received by everyone as well. Where they really dropped the ball with this new update was with the new UI. So Hunt Showdown has this in-game currency called blood bonds, which you can pay real money for. And the UI is very much designed towards incentivizing the consumer to purchase. So the main source of complaint here was this shift from the old UI to this new modernized interface that kind of resembles what you would find on a game like Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege, prompting the users to commit to an action, in this case to get those blood bonds and spend real life money on the game, which people really didn't like. We already kind of talked about how this game falls into its own unique aesthetic, and then seeing Crytek implement a UI that is so similar to something like Call of Duty kind of rubbed fans the wrong way. And rightfully so. I mean, take a look at what happened to me recently. I had already given money to Crytek by purchasing the Season Pass, the Battle Pass in this case, and upon loading the game, I'm immediately prompted to get the Battle Pass upgrade. In conclusion, it's incredibly obvious that the main focus for Crytek wasn't the user experience, it was to optimize the system to get more money out of it. And if we're being 100% honest, they didn't even do that job very well because the system is not optimized at all. I don't really agree with the review bombing stance from the community about the UI, even though the UI was not that great. But the reality of the situation is, on a major update where people are coming into the game, a lot of them weren't committing to buying the game because they were seeing a lot of negative reviews. So the community that was kind of appealing for Hunt Showdown, for Crytek to do something about getting a new player base in, now were effectively playing against themselves and preventing new players from coming in with the reviews that they were giving the game. Up to the making of this video, the latest release that we had is called Harvest of Ghosts. They introduced a new mode called Bounty Clash, which is basically a twist on the old formula. The implementation here is quite interesting. Instead of having a 1x1 kilometer map, 12 players in total are restricted to one single compound. So they didn't implement it in a way that would divide completely the player base between the traditional mode, which is called Bounty Hunt, and this new mode called Bounty Clash. And it doesn't feel like it's just a team deathmatch mode like a lot of players were fearing. Fundamentally, it's a good way if you don't have a whole lot of time, just get in, get out, extract, have a couple of kills, have a little bit of fun, either solo or with your friends. And on what I found to be a very interesting note, Dr. Guns 313 made this post on Reddit, and I agree with him 100%. What a wasted opportunity to have Bounty Hunt as the normal game mode and then Bounty Showdown as this game mode. Looking into the core implementation and the possible ramifications that this game mode might have, it's important for us to understand that Bounty Clash is restricted for the weekends. And that to me is a really, really good move. Because yes, on Bounty Hunt, you are traversing to this 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer map, and you are walking a bunch collecting clues and not getting a whole lot of action, but you have to understand that the tension is building. So when you do get into a gunfight, there's something at stake, whether it be your time, whether it be the bounty that you've managed to banish, or the hunt dollars that you want to extract with. And the soul of Hunt Showdown comes from that buildup. So if you were to implement Bounty Clash as a permanent game mode, people would want to prioritize it over Bounty Hunt to get into those gunfights, because they think that's where the game shines, but in reality, they're just taking the soul out of the whole experience. They've also implemented new weapons and tools, which to me is quite good on a game that doesn't really have a meta. A lot of quality of life changes, and they did a slight rework on the UI. A lot of people were changing their reviews back to positive. So at the end of the day, this was to me a huge win for Crytek. Across the 2 maps that are now on Hunt Showdown, they also implemented new times of day, which drastically changed the aesthetics of the game, and they look absolutely amazing. The bad side of things, now you have more bugs, and this is kind of a common trend that you're going to see with Crytek, which is, and we do know with programming, you're going to fix some issue and then you're going to get a couple of more issues showing up. But Crytek really takes this as a challenge, and you can see it in Harvest of Ghosts. Just to do a rapid fire of some issues that I've come across with, as well as other players, you have some buttons on the UI that do absolutely nothing. You have some instances when looking into weapon skins where the wrong skin is showing up, causing people to actually spend their blood bonds on certain weapons that they wouldn't want to. General visual bugs when looking and inspecting weapons on the UI. Then you can have ones that can be a little bit more serious and that impact gameplay, like I've come across a couple of invisible walls that made me die, basically. I also came across this super weird bug that made a hunter look like he was alive even though he was dead. There was a couple of situations where I was either trying to buy or change the name of a loadout and the game completely crashed. It's pretty much impossible at this point to search for specific weapon names, because even though you're using the search function, you're also triggering shortcuts. 3 months since the release of the new update, and you have bugs like the cursor on screen whenever you join a new game that's still somehow present. And that is a little bit difficult for me to understand because it was kind of an issue for a lot of users. But again, at the end of the day, I think Harvest of Ghosts was a huge success. The audience received it super positively, and people are going back into the game consistently as well, especially on the weekends. Crytek had hinted about introducing something new into the game, but in a cryptic fashion. Usually when they introduce new skins or new DLC, they kind of give you a rundown, or kind of they make it obvious in your face that they're going to release a new DLC. But in this case, it was different. So it turns out that they had acquired the rights to use Ghostface skin and introduce it into the game. At this point, people were pretty much asking when the new skin for Nicki Minaj was going to drop and when we were going to be able to twerk. If you look at the skin, it does have some rework. Mainly the mask stays unchanged. And for someone that's looking to have a grounded and immersive experience, it definitely doesn't fit the universe. But even more important than that, it initiated a conversation of what is coming next for Hunt Showdown. And if they're just looking for partnerships in a time where a majority of the main issues with the game are not getting fixed and they're just seeking money, it paints a super clear picture for the fans on where Crytek's priorities are. Because the main argument for having a skin like Ghostface into the game is that it's going to appeal to some casual players that are maybe looking at the skin and they're thinking, hey, this is cool, so let me go out and get the game so I could play with this skin. Seems kind of unrealistic. But even if this was the case, if you still have all the bugs and issues that we've been talking about, those casual players are just going to drop Hunt for a more polished experience. It is important to make a really relevant distinction here. Somebody that's working at the back end on programming the game isn't really the same person that's working on skins and developing 3D models, so it's not really the same workflow, but at the end of the day, these need to be approved by a hierarchy system, and they will come up to a point where somebody has to say, hey, yeah, this is our next move. Somehow, after almost 25 minutes, we've arrived at the end of the video. And I want to bring your attention to its title, How Hunt Made Me Love Gaming Again. In reality, that's not even getting close to how deep the rabbit hole goes. Over the last couple of years, I spent a significant amount of time just selling my creativity away. Editing videos for other people, collabing behind the scenes, but never really having a voice of my own. I mean, this was supposed to be a 10, maybe 15-minute video. And every excuse that I had to go back into the game, to find something new to add into the video, I just took it. Because yes, I didn't have to do that whole dramatic intro. I didn't have to do that whole section about how trades work. I definitely didn't need to do the animation for the crows drawing out every single frame. But I did it. And I did it because it allowed me to express myself creatively through a medium that I'm not really accustomed to. And throughout this whole process, so many new ideas kept popping into my mind. Ideas that I started putting into paper already thinking about what the next video is going to be about. And I had to keep reminding myself that this was exactly my issue with gaming. Instead of enjoying the journey that was already underway, I kept thinking about what's coming next. Kept thinking about the details that were stopping me from progressing. But I couldn't. Because in the back of my mind, I wanted to show everyone how amazing this game is despite its flaws. So I kept going at it. And yes, there's so many other things that I want to talk about, so many other games that I want to play. But at the end of the day, I learned that I have to do them one at a time. I have to be patient and enjoy the experience. So hopefully you get the perspective from somebody that just joined Hunt and kind of the roadmap that I've been going through, some of my feedback, some of the community's opinion, and I'm looking forward to you sharing your own now. But that's it on my side. Thank you for sticking around. I'm looking forward to your feedback. I am gonna go and trigger a bunch of crows and die to an ambush. So see you on the next video.